So tonight's guest has been on with us 2 times before. He was on an episode 51, episode 58, way back in 2019 before we ever went to video. This guy's been all over the world. He's been to war and back. He brought some cool artifacts to talk about tonight and told some really awesome stories, including the story of Mr. Stabby McWatchlight. Live from Romega Studios, this is Burnham Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Burnham. I'm not a great shot.
World War I bolt action.
Yeah, that he ordered from the Sears catalog.
Yeah, like, come on, dude.
No, I'm not a fantastic shot. I'm okay.
Maybe if it was a Mosin, it would have worked.
But what I didn't know, like, you see him going, he's going this way, away from the book depository, which is a tough shot or whatever. But for 10 seconds, he's driving from you to me. We're like, well, why didn't he just shoot him then?
Yeah.
Because he didn't shoot him.
Yeah. Do you know that Biden reclassified it? It was supposed to become, because it's been like 75, whatever it was, like 70 years. It's supposed to become declassified this
It
year.
becomes public record or whatever.
But then they declassified it. And did you know that the FBI lost JFK's brain?
Yeah, I'd heard that. Yeah.
Well, I know, like, what the dress the wife was wearing is still locked up, and they won't release it for like a couple, like 50 more years.
Yeah, something crazy. Everybody's going to be dead before they let it out.
Yeah.
Because it's not JFK.
Yeah. No, it's not.
You know what it'd be like? It'll be like when, I'm sure do you remember when we killed Osama?
Mm-hmm.
And like the number one Google search was, who's Osama bin Laden?
Yeah.
It's because like the whole generation of kids like didn't. They were
Yeah,
born
it was,
after.
it
Like,
was
they
20
didn't
years
know.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just.
Who is Osama and why did we kill him?
Yeah, it's almost like when you talk to kids nowadays. You know, you look in a history book, it's a picture.
Yeah.
It's a page. It's like,
I remember the first year when I was still working in public school, that we had kids, like there were no kids left that would remember 9/11.
Yeah.
Or that were born even
Yeah.
at 9/11. So I remembered, like, year after year, there were more and more kids that didn't remember it. And then year after year, there were less kids that were even born when it had happened. Okay, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
But,
One of the guys, you'd like him. His name's Winston. I don't know if you met him or not. Bunch of new guys in the office. It's crazy. But one I really click with, he's an 82nd guy too, but he's Winston, and I asked him, like, hey, how old were you when 9/11 happened? He's like, I was in kindergarten.
yeah.
I said, what? He's like, yeah, I was in kindergarten, man. Like, I didn't know what was happening. They just turned on the TV, or first grade, they made them watch it. And it was but good Lord.
Well, 9/11, see, you would have been, I was 23. I had turned 23 2 days before 9/11, so you would have been 18, 19?
I was 18. I was 18. It was my freshman year. We talked about all that before. I was with EMT and all that stuff. And
So 9/11 was what got you into the military, right?
yeah. I wanted to.
Recording, by the way. We have been for like 10 minutes. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
but yeah, like I wanted to. Right then and there, I remember. Good Lord. I remember it happened. I was walking back from class, and me and my one buddy walking back from class before cell phones were popular. They were for emergencies only.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like
Had
social
100
media.
minutes a month you could use.
Yeah. After 7 p.m., you might be able to call.
Right.
And then I remember walking back from class, talking to my friend about how isolated we were on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear all these sirens going off, and we're like, what? We look at the points of the horizon. I was like, what's all that smoke? I don't know, some fire.
Now, you were at Rutgers?
Yeah, I was at Rutgers,
yeah.
New Brunswick. And it's like half an hour from the city. And, walking back, and I walk into the dorm room that had a big screen TV, like the giant ones, and walked in just in time to see the second plane hit. I was like, what the hell just happened? And that's when I knew we were at war.
Yeah.
And people were talking about it. My best friend lost his dad. From school, my best friend lost his dad. He was a window washer. So
he was up on one of the buildings.
Yeah,
probably?
he was like up above it when it hit, and he's just like, and he knew his dad was dead, like right away.
Oh, man.
And but in my high school, I went to 3 different high schools, but one of the high schools I went to in Jersey, 7 kids lost their parents. Wow. Because people would just hop on the train and go to New York. It was easy,
Yeah.
But remember seeing it happen, and I remember trying to call. The networks were all shut down. You know, my mom used to work in the city, go up there all the time. My dad was a truck driver around the area. He used to go through New York all the time. I have uncles and aunts that live in the city, and trying to call to see what the hell happened. My uncle John, I say uncle, he's, you know, friend, but he's, you know, he's my uncle, my dad's friend. But we didn't know if he was alive or dead for 3 days.
Wow.
He happened to be, I don't know if we talked about this before or not, but he
We
happened
may
to be,
have, but run it again.
yeah, but he was a big old boy, and he was wobbling his fat ass down the street to get some donuts. And
Are you getting all these timestamps?
when he was
We're going to beep out all these swears.
Sorry. when he was waddling down the street to get some donuts, and when he was walking back, that's when the plane hit. So everyone in his office died, except for him.
I have heard that before, now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and
That he was out for donuts.
yeah, we didn't know if he was alive or dead. You know,
Well, it was crazy just if you knew anybody in the city or even around the city, like there was just no communication
it wasn't.
for a day and a half, 2 days, 3 days in some cases. And
Yeah,
cell phone signal was just, you couldn't get on because everybody else was on. And
yeah.
that was wild.
But I know the state troopers called my dorm room on my landline phone and said, "Mr. Doucette, we're coming to pick you up." And I said, "The hell did I do?"
Yeah.
You know, they're like, "No, you're
EMT, man.
Yeah, EMT, right? We're coming
Yeah.
to get you." Like, "Yeah, man. All right, come get me." And I waited outside. They had like a little like 15-pack bus, like minivan kind of thing, or a big van, and they said, "Hey, the bus is full with nurses, doctors. You know, we'll come back and get you a little bit." Like, all right, cool. Never came back. Shortly after that's when the towers collapsed. And then I was in Air Force ROTC at the time, and I talked to my family about it. I wanted to go on a list right away, and they're like, "No, stay in, you know, stay in the program, go that way." And then I just ended up not liking the way the Air Force was playing out.
Yeah.
Didn't really fit my persona,
Yeah.
you know, and then I just ended up going with the Army, enlisting the Army. So turned down a commission in the Air Force to enlist in the Army.
All right. So
But now I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then you've done that for, you have 20 years in now?
Just about.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hit
you were-
19 in January. So I'm like
Okay.
19 and a half now. So
So what are you doing Army-wise these days? Most recently, you've been, you're like the anomaly in the Army,
Yeah.
right? And then you've been in a recruiting post for how long?
and I'm not even a recruiter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I came here, you know, after jumping airplanes and blowing stuff up for about 10 years, 82nd. I went to Hawaii for 3 years, and Hawaii came here in 2016. I arrived in January 2016, and then usually after a couple years, they give you the option of reclassing, changing your job to a
Right.
full-time recruiter, which is a 79 Romeo. I was a 13 Fox before, and I never did because of a rank thing. So
Right.
like, there's too many sergeant first classes in recruiting. They're not going to let sergeant first classes reclass. Like, okay, fine. Did 3 years of that. I did a 1 year extension for a bonus, and then during that 1 year extension is when Brooke got diagnosed. So, you know, doctors here. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
You wonder why the big man sends you where he does. You know,
You don't know why until you know why, right?
yeah. And then filed that paperwork. I did what was called compassionate extensions. Basically, like, hey, let me stay here. Every year I had to file them. Like, hey, let me stay here with this doctor. See if we can find somewhere else. And every year the Army would try to move me, and I just didn't go. So like 1 year I got a call. It was from Korea.
Yeah, well, this is like, what, year before last? Like, pretty recent.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago. I got a call from Korea, like, hey, you know, I see you're in processing. You know, this is gonna be your unit. You'll be here. Then, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, I'm in Georgia, bro. Like,
This
like,
is
what?
where I'll be.
Like, this is my situation. This is where I'll be.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, and then understand. We'll let them know. And then the whole time dealing with, you know, the wife and her condition, and you know, I was pretty bitter.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
didn't know what to think of it. She didn't know what to think of it. You know, when you get a possible terminal prognosis, you know, and they say your wife's got so many years,
Yeah.
and that clock is totally ticking, but then you're still recruiting, and you have to keep that smile on,
Right.
you know, and like, it doesn't matter. And some of my command teams, they were great. They generally cared. Some didn't. you know, and I was done this like past year. I was completely done with the extensions. I was going to retire. I was sick of it. And something happened where the long and short of it is recruiting sucks right now. Yeah.
Can't imagine why.
I don't know why. But so about a year ago, they brought out a thing called the 601 program, which is 601 is just like a counseling form. But, it was basically like if you, as a recruiter or someone who's assigned to be a recruiter, doesn't put at least one person in a month, you get put on this list. And then after so many months, the commanding general of USRIC sees your name.
On the naughty list.
Yeah. So about a year ago, I was like, you know, I'm done. I'll still do my job. I'll still recruiting, doing presentations, doing all the phone calls and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was somehow my paperwork kept getting lost, or, you know, my compassionate reassignment is called. Paperwork wasn't going through. I was like, what's going on? So, you know what? I'm done. So for a full year, I gave all the contracts I made to other people. So then, like, about a year goes by, and this is in August. They go to my battalion command team goes to my battalion, goes to the CG, and they have to address every single person. And they say, well, what's up with this Sergeant Doucette guy? And they say, well, he's on compassionate reassignment.
Yeah.
Well, then the CG says, well, why is he on numbers then to produce? They go, oh, well, yeah. And like, so why is he on compassionate reassignment or not? And basically they got their PPs handed to them and pushed in for basically violating that trust and, you know, playing games they weren't supposed to play.
Yeah.
And then the CG pushed my paperwork through, and then on September 11th this past year, 2023, my compassionate reassignment went through. And then, so basically I got moved to my battalion headquarters, and now all I do is actually my primary job is take care of my family.
Yeah.
What I should have been doing the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I help out. You know, if I need like research done on people, most of the work I do remotely, like from the house, or I go in the office and do it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, so that's where I've
When's
been.
the last time you wore a uniform?
I went away to school, promotion school, master leader course for 2 weeks at Fort Stewart. So I wore my uniform then, and then I wore my uniform like two weeks ago for something. But I haven't worn it since. I
was just thinking, you this is your third time on now, and your first time not in uniform.
Yeah.
Last time it was in the recruiting office.
Yeah.
But we were audio only then, so
nobody
would have known. But yeah.
So, what's up?
So you had this extra long recruiting duty that nobody ever gets. Nobody stays a recruiter more than like a year and a half or something.
Usually your tour is 3 years.
3 years, okay.
You can do a 1 year extension, but usually after 3 years, it's you go back to the line or you reclass to a recruiter, and then you still get moved. And they wonder why, like kind of aside to that, is they wonder why like active duty recruiters really struggle against National Guard recruiters. And there was National Guard guys and reservists and all those people at my school. A lot of them were recruiters. Yeah. And we talked about it and like, well, you guys move every 2-3 years. Where's that community trust? Where's that build up? Where's that National Guard guy? He's there his entire career.
Well, he's there, and I'll tell you the other side of that story, because I got to talk to these guys when they would come to school, whatever. The other side of that story is the National Guard guy will come to school and tell you, hey, you can enlist your junior year in high school, and you're getting credit immediately for your time. So you sign up for like 6 years or whatever. Yeah. And it starts as a junior in high school. Well, they can't send you anywhere as a junior in high school. So by the time you graduate, you've got 2 years under your belt.
Yeah, the reserve's the same thing.
And then you can go to college, and you still won't go. So you can just get all the benefit and never do the dirty work.
Yeah, some of that's not true. But
okay. Imagine a recruiter lying to some high school kids.
I think that's why I was. And Brooks is the one that told me this. She saw it, and she's like, you know, I see y'all pushing, making phone calls to whenever, doing these presentations, but she's like, who cares? Who's giving back to the community? And I was like, I don't know. Yeah. She's like, you should get back to the community. I was like, I'll do that. So then I was like, I wanted to, and eventually I started telling my command, like, this is what I'm doing today. Yeah. You know, and it was that whole.
Yeah, but why would you not?
Exactly.
Though? Why would you not? You want to get the face out, the uniform out. And I saw a uniform, and it was attached to a really nice guy. I think I'll sign up for the Army. That's cool.
And okay. They said I haven't been doing number stuff since September. I haven't been associated with the office here in Rome for almost a year now, and people still come in and asking for, hey, where's Sergeant Doucette? Blah blah. And I'm around, but I'm taking care of family now.
So you've had a really cushy experience in the Army, right? Like you've just been in an office the entire time.
Oh yeah.
That's not the case at all.
No,
but and you brought props with you today. We can get into that. So we're on the tail end of your career now, right? And there was 13-ish years before that where you weren't a recruiter?
No, yeah. I started off I've been artillery my entire career. I started off as a 13 Delta, which is a guy who does the computations and stuff for the artillery, rotation, counts into like the rotation of the earth and the atmospheric pressure and all that stuff. And, that's interesting. I went that way because the job I wanted to do, 13 Fox, wasn't available.
Yeah.
So my recruiter was like, hey, just do this one for a couple of years and switch. And that's what I did. I did 13 Delta for like 3 or 4 years and then switched to 13 Fox. And I did that, which actually ended up helped me out a lot because a lot of the 13 Delta stuff is what you learn about when you become like a battalion level, brigade level 13 Fox.
So you knocked out all your prerequisites in the one job.
I ended up kind of being like ahead of the game. And like it's kind of when I was in Hawaii, I was a staff sergeant in Hawaii, but I was running a brigade combat team of fisters, they call them 13 Foxes.
Look, man,
but
I'm trying to get into the nitty-gritty of your Army career, and so far we've been a recruiter for 7 years and hung out in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Now, you got to convince people you were in the Army at some point.
So joined in 2004. I signed up. I went to basic in January 7th of 2005. I went to basic training. And then went to what's called OSIT. It's basically one site unit training. You do your base training and your AIT, your school basically.
Yeah.
It's combined, the same drill sergeants, the same place. So it was like 24 or 26 weeks of that. We talked on the phone. It was like I got 2 phone calls the entire time.
Woo.
One time, 2 10-minute phone calls the entire time from a payphone, and it was the call was free.
Okay.
I got 1 call for 10 minutes on Easter to like call family and say, hey, happy Easter, love you. And then 1 call about 2 weeks before graduation saying, hey, I didn't mess up too bad. I'm going to make it. And
they're going to let me out of here.
Yeah, this is my graduation.
So did your folks have any idea that you were going to call them on Easter, or was it just good luck, call them, hope they're home or whatever?
I went to Easter Mass and came back, and there's a whole bunch of people lined up, like 300 dudes lined up by 1 payphone. There's a bank of 5 payphones, but still there's like 300
dudes
in front of
60 guys per phone, right?
Yeah, so, and you wait there for like 2, 3, 4 hours, and that was on a Sunday. So, because Sunday is still like your off day,
right?
It's your time to relax and go to church if you want to.
So it's so relaxing now. I'm gonna shout out to my buddy Chase Lowe, who is currently in basic. They get an hour. They get their cell phones for an hour on Sundays now while they're in basic.
Yeah,
God bless them.
Well, that's
kinder, gentler Army.
Yes,
Smarter Army maybe.
And there's a thing. One of my biggest pet peeves is when like veterans chime up and are like, "Oh, that never would have happened in my Army." Or, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, the Army has to change.
Yeah,
society changes, people change, and of course we're not going to do the same stuff we did when I came in, and it was mess around games most of the time and being yelled at and doing push-ups, and because the soldier now has to learn a lot more stuff in the same amount of time, and they learned a lot too. Plus, but it's the cell phone thing. I think it's a good thing. It gives them something to look forward to, and it lets them talk to their family. There was a lot of washouts in my basic training because of, you get like a letter from home, and it's all you got was a letter.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the right mental state, which you're not, it's almost like reading a text nowadays. Like you're like, was that a haha text? Was that a crap text? Like, what's going on here?
No, if you get that milestone every Sunday, where you can at least text somebody,
and call
or whatever, and go, hey, let's, glad you're doing all right. I'm still alive, whatever.
Exactly, it helps out a lot. It helps that mental guy get back into it. So there's a plus and a negative,
right?
But But then like the changes, you know, it's crazy. I mean, because of the sedentary lifestyle nowadays, you know, kids aren't out playing. There's still kids out there.
There's
but,
some, but yeah.
A majority of kids aren't out there like, you know, playing tag and climbing trees and,
Right.
you know, doing all that stuff. So what people don't realize is that sedentary lifestyle, it affects your bone structure. So when you're out running and playing and doing that stuff, it actually creates denser, stronger bones.
Yeah.
And then so we're seeing the repercussion of that in basic training where your drill sergeant now actually gives you a cookie. And it's a protein cookie and a calcium cookie. So because we have kids showing up who are like getting stress fractures and breaking bones. Yeah, I know, right? They're breaking bones on like ruck marches and short runs. You know, and it's like they had to look at it and say, what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is the change. How do we address that? So when I showed up, it was, you know, hey, effer, get off my bus,
Yeah.
get changed. We're going to go run
Yeah,
5 miles. Now it's they do it, you know, like a mile increase a week or a half mile increase a week and
Yeah.
get their bodies used to it. And, you know,
I know we had, you sent us, as a matter of fact, on the educator tour of Fort Jackson a few years ago. And so I got to see basic, you know, from a 30,000 foot view or whatever.
yeah.
But I remember pulling up, we were in this 15 passenger van, those of us that went on the trip, and Leslie Duke's with us. Mm-hmm. Duke
God
did
bless
whatever time he did. I'm sitting next to Duke, right? And we pull up in the parking lot, and this door opens, and this drill instructor walks out. And he's 6'2", and he's 215 pounds, and he looks like he's carved out of stone. And Duke is like, he's having problems. He's like, oh, he's having flashbacks. I'm like, man, are you okay? And he's like, look, it was all coming back to him when he got off the bus and had to go stand on the little footsteps, and they yelled at him, and he was ready to get out of the bus and just start doing push-ups. I was like, I think he's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Quentin Williams. I'm still friends with him on Facebook.
Good.
But yeah, super great guy. But yeah, I think it was a different army then.
Mm-hmm.
That Duke was not ready.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, yeah, they used to do stupid things to waste time. You know, they still do like toss your lockers and stuff if you don't lock your locker correctly or take care of your bunk correctly, because it's little things.
Yeah.
And I'd have soldiers like that. You know, so my job was to basically call an artillery, mortar, rocket rounds. You know, talk to gunships and AC-130 gunships and fighters and bombers and tell them where to drop all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd have privates show up, especially in Hawaii for some reason. I don't know why, but these guys would show up, and their room would be a mess, and nothing be made up. It'd be destroyed. I got it. You live in the barracks. It's not ideal, but take care of it.
Yeah.
And they gave like, well, Sergeant, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? Like, well, you can't make your bed. You can't take out your trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't get here on time.
Organize your foot locker or whatever.
How can I trust you to drop a 2,000-pound JDAM when you can't even show up on time? It's that whole learn this first.
Yeah.
Become it. And a lot of kids, they never did laundry before. Some kids never did proper hygiene. Like, and they learn a lot of that in basic training, but then they show up and it's like, oof. They have freedom again, and they have a lot of them the first time they have a paycheck, and it's all expendable.
And it's gone. They've all got a Mercedes. And
oh yeah, I was that guy. First time I had money in my life, and went out and bought a brand new truck, and
I remember working. I did some work in Augusta when I was in indoor football. They had a team there, and I spent a lot of time around and going to the mall and seeing all the Fort Gordon parking decals on Maseratis, and like a Lotus or a Mercedes or whatever. And this kid gets out. He's 19 years old. He's got the high and tight and a Maserati. I'm like, okay, I know where all of your money's going.
Yep. But
bless their hearts.
I know. Excuse me. But yeah, so did all that stuff, and then we kind of going all over the place.
Yeah, no, we're good. We got time.
Couple deployments in Iraq, and don't got blowed up, and and all that stuff.
Well, you got blowed up, but you also didn't get blowed up.
Yes.
You kind of went into that last time.
Yeah, and the one thing we talked about this before we started rolling, or maybe I don't know.
We were rolling.
If I need to slow down, let me know.
You're good.
I talk kind of fast.
No, you're good. You're good.
My tongue is too
You
big
talk like
for
you've
my
been in the
mouth.
Army for 20 years.
So my crew got deployed my first deployment was Hurricane Katrina. deployment was a humanitarian. Obviously, 82nd got sent down to go rescue people. And this is one of the stories I forgot when we talked about last time. So, so we're down there. We get sent down there. I'm a young private. Still got the BDUs, the desert camouflage, shining my boots, my maroon beret. You know, we got 10 rounds in case something pops off. And but overall, it was great. They loved us down there, and we're out rescuing people. And you know, we started off at the airport, and it was wild at the airport. I mean, there was just like dead bodies. You know, like you walk up to a bench and you're like, hey sir, and like you touch him and he'd fall over, and there'd be like a little sticker, like a little post-it note on him, like, hey, he's dead. Like, oh crap. Or you know, there was one wild story is there was, while we're at the airport, I met a stripper named Starchild. And now you could bring your support animal, or if your animal was linked to your business, the government was paying for a separate seat for that.
We're talking about evacuees.
Yeah, evacuees at the airport during Hurricane Katrina. And like, if you're an evacuee trying to get out of here, the government's going to pay for your ticket. This is right when the airlines are struggling too. Yeah. So, and the government's going to pay for your ticket for your service animal. So there's like, the airline's like, hey, you got a service hamster. You got a service, cat, squirrel,
service
whatever.
Turtle, service parakeet.
And I'll never forget her name. Her name was Starchild. And her act was that she would dance with a little boa constrictor around her. And then at the culmination of her act, she would take her boa constrictor and swallow it like a sword.
Okay.
Tail first.
I don't know. Can we leave that in, or we'll have to talk about that in post-production?
But just the look on the snake's face when it was like, and then like she take it out, and then like, ooh. But there goes Starchild with her boa.
Starchild.
She could have held her boa, but then her boa got its own like $800,000 seat because the government's helping out the airlines.
Wow. Imagine though. I mean, snakes on a plane, right?
Yeah.
Right. Keith, that's the wildest story anybody's ever told on this podcast ever.
But then
go back and look at it, post and see what we can
leave it.
Yeah, it's this is the real. Please don't. Please don't.
She's gone to heaven by now for sure.
Man, bless her heart. Starchild and the boa constrictor.
She was all of like 4 packs a day of Marlboro Reds and trailer park tattoos and
bless her heart. But for the best.
So after we leave there, we go out the community. We set up base at Mardi Gras World, which is where they actually house all the floats from Mardi Gras.
Okay.
And we go there. We set up base camp, and once again, it's me, another private, and one corporal, and we have base camp, and we're handing out MREs during like the morning and evening, and like ice, and then after that, we go like out on patrol and try and find people and go into houses, and. So
God, what an awful job.
It was weird. It was so surreal. Like just city's empty. You hear like pop shots every now and then. At one point, I was on radio guard, which is like staying awake, make sure nothing crazy happens.
Right.
I don't know if I told this one last time, but I'm sitting there, and another like flood came in, and something happened with the zoo, and they released all the animals from the zoo. And they're like, hey, a radio call came out. It's like 3:00 in the morning. Like, hey, just be alert. Like,
there's tigers.
There's animals out there. Like, you might see a penguin. You might see a tiger. Just lock and load just in case. And now we're pretty safe. We had like a perimeter of sea wire around us and all that stuff. And I remember about 45 minutes later, I'm sitting there. And we had a 18-wheeler, one of those refrigerated ones. And we had all the ice in there and water in there. And about 45 minutes later, I see what I think is a cat. And it just looks at me, and it sends like chills down my spine, and it gives this guttural, just like low growl, and I was like, I was like, what? And it looks at me, and it locks with me, and it's probably about 50 meters away, 40 meters away, like half a football field away, and it walks up, and it has to duck down to go underneath the 18-wheeler, the trailer. That's how big it was. And I wasn't sure, like, it was nighttime. I couldn't see clearly, and I wasn't sure if it was, like, playing with me.
No nods or anything.
No nods, nothing. It's just me, my M4, my maroon beret. and the can-do attitude of the 82nd Airborne, and it had to duck down to go underneath the trailer of the 18-wheeler, and then it just went on its way. I was like, okay.
So is that more or less scary than like a terrorist with a machine gun? Like, what do we? I don't know where that falls on the scale.
Terrorist. I know what he's trying to do. He's going first if I can help it. You know, I know where his intentions are.
Right.
That cat, whatever kind of leopard or tiger or whatever that thing was, like. And I was thinking, like, if I shoot this thing, PETA's gonna be on me.
Oh, God, man,
and,
he couldn't win. But thank God he just kept going.
And then after that, about 2 days later, we go on patrol and rescuing people, flying around helicopters, finding people. And I remember found this one kid who was super excited. He was like 6-7 years old, and he was super excited. And his name is Jared. And Jared Brumfield is his name. And so we save him and his family. They're all happy. We rescue them. So fast forward, he was 8 or 9 years old. Because fast forward 10 years later, I'm still the 82nd Airborne. I'm getting ready to actually move to Hawaii. And my first sergeant says, hey, Sergeant Doucette, you got a new soldier. Go get him. So I go to what's called reception and go get the soldier. And he starts freaking out. He's like, it's you. And he jumps on me. It's like snot's pouring out. He's crying. I'm like, oh, kid, get off of me. And it was him. He was like, it's you. You saved me. You saved my family.
Man.
And that was when I wasn't sure if I was going to get out around then or not. And that's when I realized, like, the effect you can have.
Yeah.
In any organization, but, like, in the Army, like, that effect you can have where I was just doing my job, you know, flying around, going around in boats, walking around, saving people, handing out stuff. And this kid joined the Army. He joined the 82nd Airborne because it was 82nd Airborne paratroopers that saved him and his family. And then 10 years later, he's my soldier. And I'm like, that's crazy.
That is, man. But it's talking to some other recruiters, and like I remember talking to a guy named Casey Atkinson, and he talked about signing kids into the Army from the hollers of West Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
That had like never been out of their county before, and they didn't know where their next meal was coming from, and so the kid signs up so he can eat, and take care of his family and those things. But yeah, it's for what the Army is, and people, you got half your crowd will bash it, and half the crowd will say it's the best thing ever. But like, if you can get in somewhere and like get a guaranteed paycheck and food and a place to sleep, like that's tough to beat.
Yeah.
As long as things are going right for you.
Yeah. Me as a kid who struggled with homelessness growing up, and my mom had 4 kids after me, and she was at the time she was married to some D-bag and who was abusing her and stuff and abusing the kids. And me signing up originally was about 9/11 and doing my service, but it was also about sending a paycheck home.
Yeah.
And for my first 2 years in the Army, I didn't see a single paycheck. Yeah. Because I gave Mom access to my account, and I didn't care.
Yeah, you had a place to sleep and food,
but then once I decided to get married to Brooke, it was like, all right, well, we can start cutting you off.
A little different priorities.
The kids are older now; they're all like 15, 16. Like it's time to move on. But yeah, so
after Hawaii, goes Katrina after Hawaii or before?
Katrina was before Hawaii. I joined in 2005. Okay. Katrina happened later that year. And then that was the whole time I was 82nd. I got deployed my first time in August of 2006, and a surprise 15-month deployment.
15 months.
Yeah, and then that was like during the whole surge time.
Yeah. So
I got deployed to Crit, Iraq, which was pretty hot back then, and about most of it was, driving around, doing patrols, presence patrols, like, hey, we're Americans, we're not bad.
Yeah.
And
did they believe you?
Some did.
Yeah.
Some didn't, whatever. Drive around, getting blown up, reacting to getting blown up, shooting bad guys. We'd have HVTs, high value targets. We'd go hit their house at night. So the op tempo was insane, where you'd basically be doing like a patrol during the day to keep that presence going. Yeah. And then like at night, you'd be going back out. You'd refit for a couple hours, catch a nap, and you go back out and you're kicking in doors and trying to hopefully not shoot a bad guy, but capture a bad guy,
right? Because
he's worth more. And first time I ever killed something in the Army was a dog. Because it was it was a terrorist. He was an Al Qaeda guy, and they were building stuff there, like bombs and stuff like that. And he trained his dog to attack, and he was trying to go for my boys, and that wasn't going to happen. Yeah, and I felt bad, but he tried to charge us something he couldn't have.
Yeah,
and I felt bad for that dog because it's like,
oh, the dog's just doing what dogs do.
Yeah, and it's not the dog's fault, but terrorist or Al Qaeda or whoever it is, they're doing something because they hate us, and it's better that they get taken care of over there than here.
Yeah.
And then did that for about 3 months, and then in November I got sent to work with the British Army. So I was the only kid from my entire battalion. I was once again, I'm a young PFC. I just promoted to specialist. So I'm an E4. Most people tell you like
moving up the ladder.
Yeah, like I'm making $1,800 a month, woo, and tax free.
Right. Yeah.
And because I'm deployed, and I get sent to work with the British Army, and me and one other kid from my division were sent down there. Both specialists, both have no idea what's going on, and we're sent down to represent America, and we're the only Americans there. Now, and it's just insane.
Did I imagine that you had a bounty on your head at some point because of this?
Yes.
So you guys being attached to the British regiment, you changed the rules of engagement.
Yeah. We talked about that. I'm not sure we talked about it last time, but
we didn't.
No,
yes. You and I think I've talked about it before, but we didn't do it on the show.
So the British rules of engagement were, so say this is a grenade.
All right.
If I'm a terrorist, I'm Al Qaeda, and you're a British soldier, and I'm looking at you with this grenade in my hand, you can shoot me. As soon as the grenade leaves my hand, you can't shoot me anymore.
You're not armed anymore.
I'm not armed anymore.
Wow.
And if you shoot me after that grenade leaves my hand, you're going to jail.
Wow.
Or if I throw the grenade and turn around, you can't shoot me.
Can't shoot him in the back.
When I showed up, they were in a really bad firefight, and I walk into the TOC, which is like the command center, and their British commanders and all them are calling back to London, England to get permission to engage.
Oh, while they're being shot at.
While they're being shot at with like RPGs and stuff. I'm like, are you serious? Like, oh, we're trying to get permission to fire back. And like, what are you talking
America's
about?
here.
And so I sent down the fly drones, and I did that until I crashed it. And
keeping a tally over here of all my money that you've wasted.
Yeah, I know. And then they're like, hey, would you mind going on patrol with us? I'm like, yeah. And then I saw the ROE. The ROE was to the point where before and after mission, they would count the rounds in every single magazine, and they had tick marks on the back of the rounds, on the casing.
Wow.
And if you were missing a round, you paid an exorbitant fine, like an entire month's pay, and or go to jail.
So you had to pick up all your brass?
Not your brass, but like if you didn't account for that round when.
Okay.
Hey, there's a bad guy. I put 2 rounds in him. Okay. Well, you're missing 3 rounds. So what happened?
I got you.
And
it's tough to shoot and pick up the brass.
Yeah, and that's insane. So they asked me to go with them. I was like, sure, and I started going on patrol with them, and slowly but surely, everywhere that young American kid went with them, they started winning.
Yeah, because
as long as I was with them, they had to adopt American rules of engagement to protect me, which was, FOFA.
Yeah.
FOFO? Yeah, FOFO. Yeah.
A first. Yeah.
FAFO? Yeah, FAFO. Oh, yeah, I got it. And then, so I had a $100,000 bounty in my head. They were crazy. The rounds we had, so
here it comes. This is the fun part.
A box of stuff. So we'll talk about this guy in a second. And then here's my Jumpmaster armband. Here's a Stabby McWatchlight. And then
Stabby McWatchlight.
Yeah, these guys. So these are the mortar rounds that almost killed me. The tail fins. So
3.
I kept them.
Okay.
But so I'm sitting there, and the rockets and mortars, they came in every single day because I was down in Basra, Iraq, with the British, and it was called the Shat Al Arab Hotel. You look it up on Google; it's still there.
All right.
And it was so bad to the point where the British soldiers at first they were sleeping in basically cement block coffins at night. And
just because the shells were coming.
In so much. And then eventually they moved everyone into the hotel except for the Americans. So it's me, one other kid living in this one little, like, they call it CHUs, combat housing unit. No protection at all. No bunker to go to. No sandbags, just me. And there's a couple contractors out there with us in this one little area. And of course they have local workers, and the workers see us. And then one day, like, there's times where, like, we'd be, like, outside going for a jog, and, like, all of a sudden rounds come in. Wow. Like, where we were just jogging, or, like, we go to the gym. And one of the most real things was I was working out in the gym. Once again, no bunker, no shelter to go to, and we're in this, like, soft shell building working out. And I'm listening to Toadie's Possum Kingdom.
Ha.
You know that song? And
The Toadies.
Awesome
Kingdom. That's
Come on,
your
kid.
kind of thing, man.
Anyway, so right when "Do You Wanna Die" comes on in my headphones, on my iPod
I would
one,
rather not.
yeah, the rounds come in, and there's nowhere to go, and so we all just pile on top of each other and throw our body armor on top like a turtle shell, and made it through. But and then a couple of days later, and it was because a local worker saw me there. And then a couple days later, we're in our CHU, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and hear it coming in, and it rocks us. And I used to have a shirt that I had hanging up drying inside the CHU, and I remember looking at it, and it was a British shirt they gave me, and the sun hadn't quite come up yet, and I remember it hitting and hearing a sound like plinking. And looking at my shirt, I was like, huh, this holes weren't there before. And I look at the wall, and there's daylight coming through the wall. I'm like, oh, crap. So the guy with me, his name was Evans. Like, Evans, we got to go. And now
we were being shot at.
And you could hear they're doing bracketing. So, like, bracketing is like, it's really proficient bracketing, too. So when you're shooting mortars or artillery, you don't really know exactly where the bad guy is. You don't know exactly where the round's going to hit. So you do what's called bracketing. You do, like, 3 to 6 in a row, and then you move over 25, 50 meters, do it again, so you get that nice spread.
So if they're running one way or another, you're
and you're
higher chance of getting them at some point.
Exactly, and then it's also to ensure you get, like, mass effect of shrapnel and explosives going everywhere, so you basically get the entire target area saturated with shrapnel. So we run out the door. There's nowhere to go. And the only place we could think of was there was a little brick wall that was knee height. And on the other side of it was HESCO baskets. And HESCO baskets were these, like, giant baskets they filled with dirt and sand to soak up blasts.
More or less bulletproof or blast-proof. Yeah.
And of course, any American listening to this will say, oh, yeah, HESCO baskets. They're giant. They're like, 8-10 feet tall. Oh, no, not these ones. These ones were about waist height tall because the British didn't want to spend money on it. So we had this little brick wall on one side.
Win this war or not.
Yeah. We had this brick wall on one side that was up to my knee, and then we had a HESCO baskets on the other side that was up to my waist, and they were about 3 feet apart, and it was about 10 feet long. That was it. And, like, that's the only place we can go. So we start hauling butt, and Evans was faster than me, so he was ahead of me by about 3 to 4 meters. I remember hearing the next volley coming in, and because the first volley was, like, behind our building, and the next volley was coming in, and I remember watching him, and I'm just like, get there. I'm just staring at where to go. And I remember looking at him because we were still in our underwear, and he was wearing smiley face boxers. I remember looking at his smiley face boxers going, this is how I'm going to die. And and then the volley comes in. I'm about from, like, here to that wall there. It's about, like, 2-3 meters away.
Yeah, 12, 15 feet maybe.
Yeah, so maybe, like, 3-4 meters. And blast comes in behind me, and I felt it hit. It threw me. I remember kind of, like, blacking out for a second. I remember feeling all kinds of heat. No shrapnel, luckily. I got thrown in the air, and I got slammed against the brick wall. I landed on my head and wrists. My wrist is still messed up. My neck is still messed up. And then I pulled myself over the brick wall and just got in the fetal position. And I was right behind Alex. And I remember looking at him, and he was shaking. And I don't really remember shaking. I probably was.
Probably, yeah.
But the smell of the gunpowder going off, the explosive going off, that was everywhere. The smoke was everywhere. And they did at least 6 brackets of 6 rounds, maybe more. And the entire area around us was destroyed. And the whole time we're in there, like, the blast is right next to us. One mortar round landed right next to the HESCO basket, right next to where my head was. Luckily, it didn't go through. The blast threw me against the brick wall on this side. You know, I could feel the hot shrapnel was coming down, landing on us. Rocks were landing on us. And I was just praying. And I was like, God, like, you know, if you want to get me through this, that'd be great. You know, but if not,
if you got one in you today.
Yeah. And I remember sitting there, and this is something I really didn't tell anyone before. And I wanted to say it before, but the whole recruiting command, like, don't talk about your faith and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting there and I'm praying, and I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
You know, and like,
death is actually falling out of the sky at that point.
And I'm sitting there and I'm praying, and I feel a hand on my shoulder. And there's no one there. And I feel a hand on my shoulder, and I'm trying to think about it, and I feel warmth from the hand go over my entire body, and just this calm goes over me. And I just knew that day wasn't the day.
Yeah.
And
well, it could only be one thing in that moment, right?
Yeah. And, you know, it just, there's no doubt in my mind, you know, like, and it makes you wonder, like, what he's got planned for you, you know, and like, I don't know, I need to share that story more. So I figured,
yeah, absolutely, this is a
know?
place to do it, and a gajillion people are going to watch, man. But he's
real.
I mean, he is, and there's proof of it right here on this table.
Yeah,
because any one of these,
then
these were just 3 out of however many,
like at least 36 rounds.
That could have just been the end.
Yeah, and but yeah, that was like one of the first times I really was touched, you know, and it was amazing, and it was. Everyone else was scared, freaking out. You know, we got up, and it's just utter destruction around us. Our building is totally destroyed. Half my gear's blasted. They sent us in a new drone, and that got blown up. Guys. And, you know, just after that one is when they actually moved us in with the rest of everyone else.
Give you like a real house to live in?
Yeah, like a real house to live in, you know. And even before then, it was just insane, like, rockets going through. We lived in another chew. Before this time, we lived in another chew, and Alex Evans was out doing something, getting food or whatever he was doing, and I was in the chew just like relaxing, reading a book, and a rocket just goes right through rips the whole building off. Rips the whole ceiling off the building, and just for a reason, I don't know if the pin wasn't pulled, or I don't know if it probably didn't get enough rotations to arm the warhead.
It just didn't go off.
It just didn't go off, but there was a hole going from that side, and the whole top of the roof was peeled open like a tin can. And just, I was like, holy cow. All right.
Here we are. But, man, it just, you get sign after sign that it's just not, number one, in that moment, it's just not your day to go.
Yeah.
But then you do get that affirmation, well, like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something. And it wasn't what I did yesterday. Like, no matter how good whatever it was we did yesterday, like, if we're still here today, especially if there's rockets tearing the roof off the house we're staying in, there's a plan.
Yeah.
There's something. Like, we're doing something. We're doing something. There's a purpose.
Yeah. And even, like, I don't know, there's so many times I should have been killed, and I wasn't. And even, like, standing this close to somebody and talking like a couple of British guys, a group like 3 or 4 of us, and water round comes in, you don't hear it coming, or it lands, and shrapnel goes through, and I'm the one that doesn't catch shrapnel. It's like, what is going on? You know, and it happens again and again and again.
Well, I mean, you've got these, you brought them with you today in an ammo can, and for these to be, to be in proximity of however many and not take a shard of shrapnel.
Yeah. So
there's a plan, man.
Yeah. And now the interesting thing.
I was going to ask you about the bottom of those.
Yeah.
Because that's English writing on there.
Yes, it is. So the interesting thing is America and, our allies, we sell our old ammunition to people. So if you look at the bottom of it, it says Lot 16, 2006. 81 millimeter. So this is American munitions that we sold to somebody, and it found its way into Al Qaeda's hands. So whether it's, a lot of times we have older rounds, or just like we have rounds where like a lot's like defective, or we don't trust it, we sell it off. Or just like with Ukraine right now, we're selling off older rounds that we're resupplying with new money. So like all the money going to Ukraine, quote unquote, is we're sending them all of our old stuff, and then we're using that money to rebuild ourselves. But yeah,
it's crazy, man. Yeah, I looked at that a minute ago, and I saw. I was like, well, that's it's metric, but guns and
we use
ordnance
metric.
are, but the rest of that stuff that's English.
Yep,
they're shooting at us with our own stuff.
Yep, and even like so most of the IEDs that we were getting blown up with over there, it was from the Gulf War.
Yeah.
So like they had all this extra dunnage left over, like 155 rounds, 105 rounds, all this stuff left over, and they just buried it. So how big was this thing before it was exploded? About up to here.
Yeah.
So we had a 120 come in. Those things are huge, and they will just rock your world. And they usually destroy everything. And had a 120 come in and land within about 10 feet of me. Guy never pulled the pin. So I brought it in. I picked it up and brought it into the talk. Hey guys, what do I do with this? Like, but yeah, those things are like, their tail fins are like this big, and it's basically double the size if you think about it. So, but
these are 81s and those are 120s. So
they're giant, like this fat. But yeah,
that's wild to think about, man.
Yeah,
that's like, this is death right here.
Yeah, and then the old Stabby McWatchlight.
Stabby McWatchlight.
Yeah. So you can't see it, but this thing has a little flashlight, no longer works on it. You turn this to turn on, and it has a little watch right here. Doesn't work anymore. But we went to go into a suicide vest compound where they were making suicide vests in Iraq, and some guy came running at me and he said, "Allah," and I said, "No, you don't." And then I saw this on him, and I was like, "That's pretty cool." And on the blade, you see it says USA Super Knife.
Super Knife, it says. Right there on the blade.
Everything over there is like, because, I guess like USA is the bee's knees, but it's like everything is like USA this, USA that, and,
Is it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then you have another one locks it out.
Stabby McWatchlight.
Yeah. So
it does say USA Super Knife right there on it, man, and it looks kind of like a rifle, right?
It does, yeah. So.
I see that. That's Stabby McWatchlight.
Yeah.
In the flesh. I'm going to cut my fingers off trying to. There we go. Got all kinds of props.
Yeah.
Does it? I don't know. I always want to smell things when they come from.
No, I mean, hasn't been anywhere for 16, 18 years.
Oh,
it's
man.
Been that long? Oh, my gosh, buddy.
Since 2006?
Yeah.
It's been 18 years.
Goodness.
Yeah. We're getting old, man.
I know.
So you got artifacts here.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this one.
So this one is the most important one. Oops. So this is, we had a particularly rough day. And when we deployed, we didn't know where we were going at first. So I told my family, like, hey, I'll email you, or I'll write you, I'll call you with our address, and when we get there. And so I did that, and I was going on like 2, 3, almost 4 months, probably about 2.5, 3 months before I got any real mail. And the first package I got was from my grandpa, good old Wilbur Doucette. And he looks like the white Morgan Freeman, and he sounds like Charlton Heston, if you can imagine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a package from him, and I was like, oh, thank God, a package. And it just picked me up. Really bad night, got blown up, and, guys got hurt and all that. And I pick up the package, and the bottom falls out. And it's traveled around the world. It's destroyed. Yeah. And it falls down, and it goes, falls like this. And it's the Soldier's Bible. And it fell to Psalm 91. And then it's the first thing I read. It wasn't like bookmarked or anything. It was just, this
just
was
where it fell.
This was in the beginning. It had never even been opened, and it fell to Psalm 91. And I read that, and it just stuck with me. And, I didn't want to. I can read it if you want. But,
go for it, yeah.
Yeah. Psalm 91, the protection of the Most High. And this is before, so I got this before like the whole British thing. So, the one who lives under the protection of the Most High dwells in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. He himself will deliver you from the hunter's net, from the destructive plague. He will cover you with his feathers. You will take refuge under his wings. His faithfulness will be a protective shield. You will not fear the terror of the night, the arrows that fly by day, the plague that stalks in darkness, or the pestilence that ravages at noon. Though 1,000 fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, the pestilence will not reach you. You will only see it with your eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked. So, and then it goes on to, because you have made the Lord my refuge, the Most High, your dwelling place, no harm will come to you. No plague will come near your tent. For he will give his angels orders concerning you, to protect you in all your ways. They will support you with their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will not tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the young lion and the serpent. And it goes on. So, verse 1 through 8, that first stanza, I mean...
That sounds a lot like war.
Yeah. And you think about, like, the hunter's net. What's an ID?
Yeah.
A protective shield. And then
the arrows that fly by day.
Yeah, bullets, and you will see it happen, and then 1,000 will fall at your side. You will only see it with your eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked, but it will not fall onto you. And you think about all that stuff that happens, and
it mentions that he's given his angels command.
Yeah,
and they're going to be with you, and all. And we talked about your story earlier with the hand on your shoulder.
Yeah,
and that's all that could have been.
Exactly. There's no one else there.
Yeah.
And then no one in the right mind would stand up behind me and put their hand on my...
Yeah. That's all right, Keith. I got you, buddy.
Yeah, I know. So, and then they will support you with their hands.
So I always tell people that the Bible is to us. It's not about us.
Yeah.
Because you could have just as easily been 1 foot or more one way or the other. You could have been killed, just like anybody else. But you weren't. So this rings true for you. Mm-hmm. And that God protected you through this. And we're talking about purpose and things. And seems like you have a purpose. Otherwise, any number of these things would have happened to you differently, and you wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
But so the Bible's not about us, but maybe sometimes a little bit it is.
Yeah.
And it's at least something we can relate to, and that's really cool that there's no coincidence that it fell out of that box and landed on
absolutely not.
That passage of Scripture.
Yeah, it had never been opened before. I stand corrected. The only thing, it was open on the first page, and my grandpa wrote my name in it, I think. Let's see here. I know, yeah. Yeah, it says Keith Doucette, by Dad and Grandpa, and he mailed it in February 2005. Or not February 2005, but they bought it in February 2005, and then they didn't mail it to me until my deployment. So, and then I wrote the entire psalm down on write in the rain paper. So if you don't know what that is, it's paper that you can write on, and you can write on it in the rain. It won't run. It never really fades. But so I wrote, because I want to bring my Bible with me and get it destroyed on mission. So I wrote Psalm 91 on this piece of write in the rain paper. You can see it, and you can see it's all weathered and beat up, but I carried this with me for 2 deployments. I carried it in my breast pocket, and it started off with me just saying it to myself, praying it before I went on a mission, and then I started praying it with a couple guys beforehand, and then before the end of the deployment, first deployment was over, I was saying it on the radio as we rolled out the gate, and guys who don't believe, they're believing. They see these crazy things happening, and we didn't lose anybody in my first deployment. All this stuff that happened.
And Tikrit, you guys didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, wow. And then we moved from Tikrit. I went down the British, came back in February 2007 to my guys, and then we were still in Tikrit, and then we moved from Tikrit to a little town called Why Not. And why not?
Why
and,
not?
it was right by Samara and all that stuff. It was a really bad area too. So just firefights like every day, and you know, IEDs and all that stuff. But once again, like guys got hurt, but no one died.
Yeah.
And like just no explanation for it besides, you know.
Could only be one thing, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we were talking, maybe it was before air, about the statement, you know, there's no atheist in a foxhole.
Yeah.
Well, like, that's surely got to be true. You talked about, you know, started with you and then a few of the guys, and then it's on the radio, and you know when you're going into a situation where, like, there's going to be death. And it can be you or it can be them.
Yeah.
Or it might be all of you or none of you, know, or anything
Yeah.
in between. But having that assurance as you're going in that, not that, you know, the arrow, you know, the Bible talks about no weapon formed against us, you know, no weapon formed against you will prosper. Well, like, that doesn't mean you won't get shot. It will mean that even if you get shot and die, there is assurance in, you know, our faith in Christ and eternal life and all these things. So, like, okay, I can go into combat with that in mind. And I don't know, I can't imagine.
And, you know, I think, talk about like what happens, and you know, we know like from my wife like why we were sent to Rome, but I also think, you know, because I was in Hawaii, I'm like, where's Rome? Like I never even heard of it before. And then I get sent out here, and just all the great things have happened. You know, the doctors never heard of my wife's condition. You know, she had all these problems wrong with her. She was, you know, she'd step out in the sun in the heat, and her skin would turn purple and start burning. Her joints are killing her. She's like losing weight like crazy, and her weight's fluctuating like crazy. And she's in like agonizing pain all the time. And then we come out here and do a couple tests. You know, the army doctors are all like, "Oh, you're just depressed. You're just a
Yeah, that's what it is. It's depression.
you're just a regular dependent. You know, like here's some antidepressants. You know, like." And then we come out here, and one of the top like 2 or 3 doctors in the country for her condition, we finally see him. He looks at a blood work, and he's like, "Yeah, it's this. Here, take this." He's like, "I'm not going to do biopsies and all that stuff, but he's like, take this medicine. If you start feeling better in a couple months, then it's for sure this."
Yeah.
And, you know, that was in 2019. Yeah, it was in 2019. So, and then they gave her, you know, most people who have her condition, because of lack of understanding of it or lack of funding behind it, you know, because rare diseases, they don't really get the traction that,
Right.
They usually have a lifespan about 3 to 5 years. So, you know, she tried to hide that from me, and I found the letter for the, you know, because I needed it for the Army, and I went to the doctor without her knowing. I got it, and I saw a letter as like, you know, life expectancy is 3 to 5 years, and that kind of, you know, and that's why I got like really bitter. But then look at it now, and it's like, you know, our marriage has grown stronger. You know, I sought to better myself. I was drinking really bad, trying to deal with my demons.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the demons of war and all that stuff. And we had our daughter, you know, and that's a cool story too. You know, her sister was our surrogate. So, and we have our beautiful daughter because of her sister. And, you know, it's just all because we came here.
Yeah.
And you wonder why, like, you know, it's just.
Well, you're still wondering why.
Yeah.
Right, which means you haven't found it yet.
I don't know what my purpose is yet.
Yeah.
But I'm praying that, like, maybe it's just to spread the story.
Well,
you
that's.
know? But,
yeah.
you know, and like one thing I'll say is, you know, talk about like demons of the past is, you know, these guys, and the system sucks for getting guys help. I got help. My first time getting help was I was actually on mid-tour leave from my second deployment, and I was at Rockingham, North Carolina, when I was still stationed at Fort Bragg, and it was like the birthplace of NASCAR. And they had this thing called the smoke out every year. And it's like, I went with my dad and all these guys. It's a big like biker rally and, you know, hot rod rally. Yeah. So we go there, and we're hanging out, we're partying, doing all that stuff. It's me, my wife, a couple of guys from the unit, and someone sets off like a mortar round, like a you know, firework mortar round. And I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, have a beer in my hands, eating some pizza. We're all hanging out in the parking lot, BSing. And someone sets it off, and all of a sudden, there's no more beer in my hand. There's no more pizza in my hand. My hands are covered in blood. And I don't know where I am. And it's kind of like everything's black. And there's like dead bodies around me. And then a couple minutes goes by, and I come to, and I'm leaning on the hood of my truck, and I'm just like shaking uncontrollably. And my buddy's right there, my wife's right there, and I had a complete breakdown. And I just remember my dad was there too, my uncle, and my Uncle John, and they brought me into the hotel room, and I had a complete breakdown. And it was mostly about like trying to save people you can't. I was EMT back then and all that stuff too, so I was like a secondary medic. Our medic wasn't the best medic. He was scared to get out of the truck, so a lot of times when someone got hurt, it was me doing it. Or trying to save an Iraqi that got hurt, or little kids that got hurt, and but I just remember seeing like the fear on my wife's face, and I was like, I can't let this keep going on. And that's when I sought help. And the stigma from it, like just the amount of trash that came from my unit, my command, my unit was just like, it was otherworldly. I got sent back overseas after a couple weeks. I was on leave then. My leave got extended a little bit to kind of get sorted out, and I went back, and it was just the hatred for my command was just insane.
So you got pushed back.
Yeah.
For going to treatment, or for having this condition to begin with?
For going to treatment. I got pushed back a little bit. And I also had another medical condition going on. They thought my hernia surgery from when I was a kid, I was a teenager, ruptured. And, something was going on with that. So they tried to see what was going on there. They couldn't figure it out. So then after a couple weeks, probably about a month, I got sent back. And then just from the rest of the deployment till even after we returned, just the stigma that goes with it, back then, especially back then. And then, but the craziest thing happened is, I was outspoken about it. I was like, yeah, I'm messed up. Like, yeah, I'm trying to get help. And there's these guys out there, these old school guys that were like, it's the Army or nothing, It's like, who cares if it's your first marriage? You'll get another wife later. No, dude, like, no. And, but I started talking to the guys about it, and all of a sudden more guys started coming up to me like, hey, how do I get help? How do I go this way? How do I do this? And, guys started getting better. We had suicide started falling off, but it sucks when you don't lose any guys down range, but then you come back and guys are dropping like flies.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you bring that stuff with you.
Yeah.
They say that only the dead see the end of war. So you go to a barbecue and somebody launches some fireworks, and all of a sudden you're back there again. All that's going on, and that happened to you. But how many other guys does that same thing happen to? Or the sound of maybe a dog barking, because of what you went through. Something, who knows? But you guys carry that with you, and it does get stigmatized. Mm-hmm. And it gets stigmatized for men a lot of times anyway, but you guys are like supposed to be next level tough. You're soldiers and warriors and all this stuff, and you can't be damaged. Like, you don't have time to be damaged. Yeah. But the fact that you were outspoken about it and really pursued it, I guess, ended up working for you. Yeah.
I mean, my career took a little bit of a hit back then. I didn't get promoted for a while, but then once I changed units, I got promoted almost immediately. And then same thing with now is like my career is kind of taking a hit. Been out here, like I was fast tracking for promotion before I came on recruiting duty. I was supposed to do 3 or 4 years. Obviously, family always comes first. Yeah. So now I'm going on 19 years, sergeant first class. A lot of the guys I used to work with, or I used to tutelage, I brought them up. They're getting promoted now, and they're master sergeants and first sergeants. But I don't think about it negatively. What's cool is like when they call you and thank you. Yeah. Like, hey, you made the right call. You should be here too. I'm like, no, like I'm just proud that you made it. Like I made that happen. And these guys are calling me, and even guys that got out, guys are calling me after 18, 17 years, checking in with me. That's cool. That's cool. But
So even in spite of all of this, you view your time in the Army as a positive thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never have met my wife. I would not be in Rome, Georgia. I would not have traveled the world.
Yeah.
I've been to I think I've been to like 12 or 15 different countries.
I lived in Hawaii for a while. That's nice, right? I mean,
yeah, I know. And then, there are ups and downs with it, but I'll say if you can stick it out, and I could drop my retirement packet and be retired in a couple months, and I'll be taken care of for pretty good with my pension and stuff. But I mean, I'm gonna stick with it for a while.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing like some of the stuff they do, like the presentations, and doing the background checks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's mostly for the financial side of it, but more importantly, it's also for the insurance.
Yeah.
Because
right.
When we get our pick up my wife's prescriptions, or I get like the medical statements. We get a statement of summary of statements, and it's like, medicine, you saved $812 this month in medication. Like, whoa, using your insurance. Like, whoa, yeah, okay, I'm staying in.
Yeah.
Or
absolutely let them pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not like you didn't do your time.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, there's exploded ordinance on the table with us.
Yeah.
Like you can soak up some resources at this point.
Yeah. And part of that is like when you're on base, all that stuff's free. So it's just getting tracker out here.
Right.
You don't see, and that's what a lot of guys, if there's any young guys watching, is, especially like your first term, or if you came in straight from high school, or even as a young kid like I did, you don't really understand. You're like, oh, the healthcare sucks. And granted, it does kind of suck, but healthcare everywhere sucks now.
Healthcare is just, it's terrible in general.
You got to check all the blocks, but you don't see the financial side of it.
Yeah.
When you're on base, you just walk into your appointment, you walk out, you
Right.
walk up to the pharmacy, you walk away. You never get a statement of charges or a bill. And seeing it out here is like, it's insane. I mean, so staying in for the wife, staying in for the daughter,
So let's circle back just a little bit. You said,
okay, Jen Psaki.
I know, right? You talked about the first time you got help.
Yeah.
And it was before you immediately went back overseas again.
Yeah.
How many times did you go back for help again after that? And what was it that kind of got you over the hump?
I went back again. As soon as I got back from my second deployment, I went back for more help. And I saw a therapist. I will say, like, the group settings don't do anything.
Yeah.
Because you get a bunch of alpha males in there. And
who's going to tell the truth, right?
Well, that, and like, oh, that's all that happened to you? Well, this happened to me.
Yeah.
And with PTSD, I think of it kind of like as I equate it to like someone's pain threshold. I could shoot you in the leg. You're like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And I'll get a paper cut and I'll be like, so you don't know what's going to set someone off and what creates that PTSD, that ingrained memory and that trauma. So, but that's why like the group stuff doesn't work. You need to see someone one-on-one. And I saw this one therapist, and she was with the Army, and she did a thing called in vitro therapy, where we'd sit there and she'd get a tape recorder out and she'd make me talk about what happened. And then my homework was to listen to that recording and then like take it with me and like listen to it in public, in the mall, or out somewhere, and like be somewhere uncomfortable. And basically it. I don't know if you know how it works, but like how PTSD works is when something traumatic happens like that, your brain doesn't know how to process it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I'm going to put it over there and I'm going to keep it there and I'm going to try and block it out of my memory, but it's stuck in that short-term memory. So anytime that like loud bang happens, anytime, even to this day, the door tries to open. But like that loud bang happens or whatever it is that sets you off, a smell.
Yeah.
It reignites that memory, and then you have all the feelings associated with that traumatic event.
Right.
So what her therapy did was it brought it out of that short-term memory and basically forced my brain to process it and then kind of put it in that long-term memory back there. So it's kind of like there's a closet door, and like it wants to open every once in a while.
Yeah.
And like the light wants to come in, and like, you know, it's like a bad light. Like, I don't want that. It's like that closet you're scared of as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's like there's bad stuff.
But there really is a monster in there.
There is. Your demons are hidden back there, and you know, the thing is now you know how to cope with it, and like it might start off like, hey, this is, you know, I had therapy today for my back, and I had to talk to them about like what happened and what injured me, and you know, I started getting worked up while I was there, and I was like, okay, just, you're in a safe place. It's not nothing's gonna happen. I'm just talking about it, but you know.
So you found a therapist that worked for you, and it was your second time around.
Yeah.
Was there like a fight that you had to go through to get to the therapist, or was it just something you like? What was that process like?
Usually there is. With her, I called her directly because my buddy, his name is Dustin Hardy. He was there, and he saw me have my flashback, and he was there holding me when I came back, and you know, he gave me her number, and so I called her directly, and she got me in. Usually you have to like go to your PA. I mean, now it's kind of, back then you had to like go through your PA first and then get approval, or you had to go to like, I think it was like the 7th floor of Womack, which is like the psych ward of Womack Hospital on Fort Bragg, or Fort Liberty, sorry. But now there's like, resources available you can call. But, you know, it's still, from what I know of now, it's still, the availability of resources is still underwhelming.
Yeah.
And the amount of veterans we have coming back with trauma is, it's severe. You know, and even if like you never deployed, or doesn't mean you didn't go into harm's way. It doesn't mean that like, you know, something didn't happen to you, you know. So
well, I know people who didn't deploy.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be a heck of a lot better off than some of the guys I know that did.
Yeah.
You know, and they were at, it's not Hood anymore. What's it called now?
Cavajos.
Yeah. Okay. So they were there, and apparently that was about the most awful place you could be stationed in the in the Army and still be, you know, safe or whatever. But yeah, the guys that'll, you know, they still carry stuff with them even not having been deployed. But I guess there is help. It's just a matter of being diligent, you know, and advocating for yourself. And
and a lot of it is like realizing that even if there is a stigma with it, you still have to realize what's going to be best for you. You know, like, I need to get help. Yeah. You know, and some guys, they try and self-medicate, and I try to do it, you know, alcohol and all that stuff, but you're not going to fix it by yourself. You need that support system, and, you know, you need to find someone who works for you. I know the VA is horrible. But I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but it's, you know, it's government bureaucracy at its finest. There's actually a movement in Congress to disband the VA.
Really?
Yeah. And you know what?
No, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Let's just pay for your health care as opposed to trying to send you to a VA specifically.
Yeah. Like I've known guys they're trying to set up like a mental health appointment, and they're put on hold for 45 minutes, hour, 2-3 hours, or, you know, one of my buddies, he tried to do a mental health appointment, and they scheduled him, and he drove to his normal clinic, like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And then he gets there and like, oh, well, your appointment's actually at the other clinic, which is now 4 hours away. Which
is exactly what you need, right? When you're looking for mental health help.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's like,
so, and the rules that like the bureaucracy has put in place, like there's one doctor, he was, I forget his name, but he was responsible for accidentally killing, it was over 24 soldiers on the operating table. And because the regulation, and Trump tried to change this where you can fire them.
Yeah.
But the regulations put in place is you can't fire them. They can only get reassigned. So this dude is still there collecting a paycheck. He's not doing surgeries anymore, but he's still collecting his like 6-figure paycheck. He's just doing like research and stuff now. But it's like,
God bless him.
Yeah. But yeah, I say, hey, you know what? It ain't working. Disband it, make it so like a veteran can walk into any doctor's office with his ID card and be like, you know, I need help.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go. And why not? It would bolster the local economy and help local doctors out.
Right.
You know? So.
just a matter of speaking up for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. So I'll get in trouble if anyone sees this, but screw it.
You're on the short road anyway, man. They're going to run you out of there.
I'm going to apply for my disability when I retire. And be like, oh, really?
Yeah.
You get all this stuff, 10%.
Tango, where we at on time, man?
Hour 22.
That's about what I figured.
Dang.
Yeah. I was thinking an hour and a half. I'm usually within 10 minutes.
Yeah. That's long, man. I can't believe we talked for that long.
I was gonna say, ooh,
You got a question?
yeah.
Yeah.
I see this giant scar on your calf. Where'd that come from? Or is that just from you playing on the chair?
Oh, no, that's just... No, that's nothing serious. Actually, I tore my Achilles a while back, and it just hasn't
Trying to get another war story?
I was like, there's a scar down there. What's that from?
No, most of my scars are for being stupid or like surgeries and stuff. I'm not like surgery 10 right now.
Oh.
So I had a knee
lightweight.
transplant. That's cool. But yeah,
Oh, yeah. How's your knee?
it's getting there.
Yeah.
3 knee surgeries in 3 years will mess you up.
Yeah.
So I had a surgery. I had a regular meniscus repair at Harbin Clinic, and the surgeon jacked it up and then refused to admit it. And then like I was there. I won't say his name, but I'm sure Harbin Clinic's great. But they are great. And
Not this guy.
yeah, but he refused to see me after the fact. Like my knee's turning purple, it's swollen, it's crunching. I had a meniscus repair, and usually if anyone's had it,
Not that big a deal, right? I mean, on
yeah.
paper.
Yeah, and like usually you're non-load bearing for, a couple weeks to a couple months, and they're like, no, you can start walking, in 2-3 days. Like, okay, do I have any therapy? No, you're fine. When can I start running? Next week.
I ain't no expert, Keith.
I was like, okay. So of course the Army is like, oh, you don't have a profile. Go take a PT test. And it starts crunching and all that stuff. And then I got an MRI, and they're like, yeah, your knee's messed up, but you had a surgery to fix it. Like, no. So then
I'm telling you, that's
I
not
was
what
like, you know
happened.
what? I need to go to Rome Orthopedic. I need to go see Dr. Dunn.
Yeah.
And I heard wonders about him, and he pulled up my MRI, and he was like, holy.
Is that who did yours? You did it. You were at Rome Orthopedic, though, right? Bowerman, yeah.
Okay. But he looked at my MRI, and he was like, good Lord. And I remember he actually called the surgeon on the phone, and the call was, he was outside my like little waiting room, like the room you wait in, and I was waiting to see him. And he was on the phone call with him. I hear him like, yeah, he's right here. Yeah, you messed him up. And he's like, don't worry, I got it.
I'll straighten him out. No worries.
And he came in, and he's like, look, dude, I'm sorry. And but they did a osteochondral allograft transplantation, and that's where this. It's basically like they cut me wide open. I have pictures if you want to see them. If you're into that thing,
You showed me. You sent me some. Yeah.
But they cut me wide open. They basically cored out the middle of my femur bone at the bottom, where like basically the top of your knee is, and they replaced it with a cadaver knee. Ooh. And so the picture, just like you said, it's like a cork. You can look up the surgery. It's pretty cool. Look up Dr. Dunn Oates procedure.
Yeah.
And then he like basically perfected it.
Guy here in Rome, Georgia, you say?
Guy here in Rome, Georgia. And
imagine.
then that was 2 years ago, and that was a rough one. I was in like the RoboCop splint for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And then this past summer was the remaining surgery. So that fixed like the sensor of my knee. And the whole idea is that like with the knee replacement, they only last about 10, 15 years if you're good to them.
Right.
Of course, I'm not going to be good to it because Army. And so the idea is with this OS procedure is that it'll last me the rest of my life.
Oh, okay.
The surgery was a lot longer. Recovery was a lot longer. But
yeah, but in the long run, it's worth it.
yeah. But then this past summer was the remaining fix of the cartilage around that. So that was another meniscus repair this summer. So it was trying to get it back. I'm right-legged, right-handed, and my right leg is like half the size of my left leg. And I walk in circles. I swim in circles,
Yeah, you'll get there, though, man. You'll get there. And just another surgery, right? And then you'll be...
The best part was like I was on recovery. My daughter, she's 5, and she's like, "Daddy, catch me!" And she knows to turn right. I'm like, "Oh, can't."
Yeah.
Get over here.
Oh man,
Daddy
tough
can't
stuff.
catch me. Daddy can't catch me.
Well, maybe not, but you're still here with us.
Yeah.
We're glad. It was great having you on again. We're going to jump
man.
off right here.
All right. We never
and-
talked about you or anything.
This is not about me,
Yeah.
Keith. I can do this anytime, but I
Okay.
bring people on and talk about them. But we'll leave some story for next time. We'll catch up with what's going to happen after the Army and
Hey, Munster. Hey, Milky Way.
get out of here.
Hey, you. Hey, you want to?
This whole time.
Hey, 82nd Airborne.
There you go. Now we're talking. God bless you guys. We love you. See you next time. Monster, the Army says you have to sponsor us.
Yes. If they could put White Monster on tap, would everyone in the Army loves White Monster? It's a thing.
You know, if the Army could sponsor us, for Pete's sake,
Yeah.
listen, we're here recruiting. This is the...
Yeah. What else you got? How wide is your pan? Like, are we still in the picture if we go back and like, oh, you know,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, let's.
you know, fucking me, dude.
Danny lean back.
This is as far as I'm going to go, like ever.
Keith, it cuts off on you a little bit, but that's fine.
Why, hello.
Just don't do this.
Yeah. I have to crack it once in a while, so.
Even if you do, it's fine. Like, it's not.
So we need